Was to check out the delicious and authentic dishes at his favorite spot. It's in Uptown and it's called Take Noodle.
Vietnamese food is very authentic. We use a lot of flavors in it, like a lot of Chinese herbal, and we also make it fresh every day. Well, our main dish is pho, which is the beef noodle soup. It takes like 12 hours to make. We usually put Chinese herbal, ginger, and then we use the beef bones. And we also serve it with the vegetable, side dish of vegetable with bean sprouts, basil, lemon, and hot peppers. Our very famous popular dish is chicken with lemongrass. And if they want to go something more authentic, then like the catfish simmered with homemade sauce. A lot of people say it's great and they think it's very authentic because we don't switch up the food to make it like more of an American way, but we keep our authentic.
I got number 116.
Take Noodle is a restaurant that provides 100% authentic food, healthy food, and fresh food every day.
So, Nick, you say that Take Noodle is the best restaurant in Little Saigon. Tell us why you chose it.
Well, I love Vietnamese food, and I think Vietnamese food is underrated in the city of Chicago. Take Noodle is great because it's the most inviting Vietnamese place in Little Saigon, which is on Argyle and Broadway. It's got floor-to-ceiling windows, so when you sit inside, you see all the action on the street, you know, people walking by, getting off the L train. My favorite dish, though, is called pho, which is basically flat rice noodles in a beef broth. And it's a huge bowl. It's like this big, so it's a meal in itself. And when you order it, like 2 minutes later, they bring out a plate of fresh vegetables. You got some mint, bean sprouts, jalapenos, cilantro. And you're wondering what that is, because the first time I ordered it, I'm like, oh, what's that? So I just started picking at it. But when they bring the broth, you're supposed to, you know, add whatever you can inside your broth, customize it. And then there's a whole plate of condiments in the middle of the table.
Did you get any direction on how to use those things?
No, actually. Actually, the first time I went there, I went there with my wife, who spent a lot of time in Vietnam. So she felt that this restaurant was very authentic.
So, Jacqueline, did you get direction, or were you just sort of,
No, I was more like, because I have eaten Vietnamese quite a bit, but we didn't have any set servers, so we tended to have somebody come by and offer to take our order and then leave, and then somebody else would come by and we'd say, could we get a glass for our, it was BYOB. So just tracking people down was difficult.
I could track down a server at any time during my dining experience there. As far as the knowledge and the, you know, knowing what is what, you know, I totally agree. I had no idea of what to order. I just, you know, just went off the top of my head just looking at the menu. You know,
well, they have some photos on the menu, right?
There's quite a bit of photos. It's a big menu. It's huge.
It's like a book.
Yeah.
So what did you finally order?
For starters, I had the Vietnamese pancake. I absolutely loved it. I love the very crisp, flaky shell, the outer shell, and the bean sprouts and the shrimp that was with it. It just definitely had a different flavor. I mean, it really set the whole tone for my whole dining experience there. It really made me go out of the box. You know,
see, that's what my friend and I tried to do. We didn't want to just do the requisite, you know, spring roll or something. So we said, let's try something different. And she doesn't eat meat, and I eat pretty much anything. So I said, well, we'll try to come up with something that's in between. So we chose something, and we asked our server, and he said, no, try this one. And we said, well, no, because that has pork in it. And I said, what if you make it without the pork? He said, well, then it won't taste good, which I appreciated. So then I said, well, okay, well, can we go back to this one? He said, well, okay. And then he brought it, but it had meat in it. So we had to call another person over, and she came and said, what do you mean meat? And she looked at it and said, yeah, that's meat. And so they, you know, they made some attempt to fix it.
And I think there is some language barrier there, too, because there are times when I had to repeat what I wanted, you know, to make sure that I wanted what I was going to get what I wanted. So
once they get it right, it's perfect.
Once they, yeah, they do.
That's what I think.
Actually, they use a lot of exotic ingredients here, especially with the pho. What are some, like, you know, do you switch it up and get, you know, different cuts of the beef versus others?
Yeah, you know, I actually, in terms of the pho, I get the meatballs a lot in the pho. And whatever they give me, I eat. Like, I think as an experience, it's a very novel experience. You know, I think a lot of people don't understand Vietnamese cuisine.
I absolutely agree. I think my brain cells increased after I left this restaurant. I think my cranium expanded, and just the whole world was just totally different for me. I absolutely loved it. I love the ingredients. I love the herbs. I love the spices. It was very different. Just walking into the restaurant, at first I said, oh boy, I'm in a lot of trouble, you know, because everything was very foreign to me. But it was totally out of the box experience.
It's like a cafeteria atmosphere. You don't go there for the decor. It's like big round tables. Some of them are wobbly. The chairs aren't quite so comfortable. But it's the food. Here, the bottom line is the food.
I feel so cheated because I like that kind of, you know, I don't mind the atmosphere if you go in and you sit down and you're elbow to elbow with people who especially seem to be authentic. So I was really excited when I got there, and I ended up so disappointed, and I wanted to love it.
Eric, what did you have for your main entree?
I had the marinated pork and the marinated beef, and it was very good. It was very flavorful. It was soft. It was tender, and they give you huge portions. I mean, just huge, absolutely huge. But overall, it was just very good. It was very different. It's totally, I did not expect it at all.
Now the restaurant is BYOB, and if you're going to bring something, I would suggest a Riesling. So, you know, Vietnamese food, as you're saying, is so delicate, so you really can't do heavy wines here. So Riesling, anything with high acidity like Sauvignon Blanc, even something like a Vouvray would be nice. But if you're not into wine, they do have a delicious juice bar.
Oh, yeah.
The bubble teas.
Bubble teas are great. They're a great way to end the meal.
I didn't hear bubble teas.
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything about this. Let's go back.
They're great. They're great.
All right, Nick, you picked tank noodle. Give us a summary.
Well, it's fresh, light, healthy, very tasty, and something different.
All right, Jacqueline?
I would have to try it again to convince myself that I didn't love it because I didn't have a great experience there for the food or the atmosphere.
All right, and Eric?
Very exotic and out of the box experience.
All right, well, you can decide for yourself at Tank Noodle, 4953 North Broadway, 773-878-2253. Open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day except Wednesday. Reservations are accepted. Alcoholic beverages are BYOB, and the average tab per person is $25. So in this week's show, we featured flamingo seafood in Mount